Good Monday to you, everybody. Income 731. Welcome to week kaboom 4. We are moving right along here. Speaking of keeping going, a little bit of coffee to get us started off. All right, that is much better. Now, I am your sufficiently caffeinated communication instructor. How is everybody doing? You have a good weekend? Did you get to relax, I hope? Okay. Take it a little bit easy, maybe? All right, we are starting a new week and a new work, for that matter. We have left behind Hoke et al. And Everything Connects. And for this week now, we're going to shift our focus to a work called Macroeconomics. This is my copy, which is, I think, terribly outdated. The one that you have is updated, new, and improved, but I've had mine for some time now. But anyway, Tapscott and Williams. These two are an interesting pair. They burst onto the scene. I think it was 2000 and 2007. I was going to say 2005, with a book called Weeconomics, that showed how the rise of the internet, not necessarily World Wide Web. And by the way, as communication peoples, you ought to, right off the top of your head, to be able to distinguish between what's the internet and what's the World Wide Web, because although they are related to each other, they're not the same thing. Okay, so if you don't know what those are, look it up. All right, but anyway, back in 2007, they released this book, Weeconomics, and it caused a bit of a stir. I mean, it came on the heels of a similar book called Freakonomics that took a look at some socioeconomic trends that were grounded in, from the author's perspective, just some unpleasant truths. For instance, in Freakonomics, not Weeconomics, the authors speculated that the drop in violent crime that occurred throughout the 90s and the 2000s was largely due to unrestricted access to abortion and a subsequent drop in people from certain socioeconomic classes that have a tendency to commit crime. Now, I'm not pushing that as a fact. I'm just telling you why the works by these authors were disruptive in their propositions. And the same goes for Weeconomics. And there were some obvious changes in the market brought on by the connectivity that is the internet. Okay. The classic example, and you read about this in Hoke, is what happened to the company Blockbuster. I think I mentioned last week another example that fits into that same category is what's happening. I mean, it's all but a foregone conclusion to the company Sears, that they were on the forefront of a revolution. In the case of Blockbuster, entertainment at home. In the case of Sears, goods delivered to your door. And they didn't see the next wave, the next phase, the next disruption. And when they did see it, they were very stuck in how they thought about doing business. Macroeconomics, the book that you're about to read this week, is all about that, about not being stuck, about leveraging technology on the macro level to do business in a different way. I don't agree necessarily with all of their conclusions and even premises, but I think what they're up to is very, very interesting. I mean, I'll give you I don't want to bias your opinion of the book before you get into it, but I'll give you for example, what do I mean when I say I'm not necessarily convinced of all their premises. So the fundamental premise here of the book is that these new technologies and how they're being applied in different ways. Is a disruptor within the business world. It represents a new world order that's replacing, business-wise, the old world order. And you could say, this is going to be very interesting for those of us in communication, where this is going to lead. That we're facing the front part of now a growing wave of disruption, and that is AI. What is artificial intelligence going to do to the world of copywriting, public relations, of day-to-day communications, everything from, and it's already in spaces like email, in corporate writing, all right, in all forms. But anyway, back to macroeconomics. So they're saying, this is all new, and this is replacing the old. Okay. One of the issues I take with that premise is that this whole new system, the internet, it only functions because of the supply afforded to it by the old system. And that is, what you don't see when you look at the internet is the tens of gajillion kilowatt hours that are required, that is electricity, to run all the server banks that are spread out all over the world. And the internet is the connectivity between those server banks to provide the material that's placed on those servers to you. That's the World Wide Web. So true, this interconnectivity is providing new pathways, and you're going to read about some of those in these first few chapters, for doing business and opportunities to think outside of the box. But I don't necessarily agree that this is a replacement, because you it's not like you can phase out a Blockbuster because Netflix is here. That as an equivalent to say phase out a power plant because now there is the internet. No, because the internet, which is dependent upon these banks of servers, wouldn't be the internet without the power plants. And the demand for power is going up. The irony of things like electronic cars, anything that's running off electricity, whether they have a battery stored in them and then they're disconnected from a main power source, or they're connected to a power source like a bank of servers, or your PC or your laptop. The irony is that they, as they're being pitched as a replacement, and well, now you can work from home and you don't have to commute, and so you can replace your expenditure of fossil fuels where work is concerned. No, you can't, because the power that's required to allow this growing number of individuals to work from home is growing exponentially. And until we invent a perpetual motion machine, which would be great, by the way, the need for power, and most of it's still globally produced. I mean, really, all electricity is produced by spinning a magnet inside of a coil of wire. That's it. I mean, when you get down to it, if you take apart an electric motor, an electric generator, something that generates electricity, all right, and that spinning of those magnets is carried out largely through steam power, and the water is boiled predominantly globally through the burning of coal, because we produce energy by breaking apart the bonds of carbon atoms. And in wood, it's not terribly efficient because there's a lot of other stuff in wood that's not carbon that gets in the way. But in coal is overwhelmingly carbon. And so you get a lot of energy per weight of fuel material. It's physics. It's not, big oil or big coal conspiring against us. Okay. So, as you read these guys, sort of keep one eye on the global market and the systems upon which business is dependent, because it is. But the point that they're making, that there are multiplying, there are opportunities, excuse me, that are multiplying for business to do things and think about doing things in a different way, do it out of the box. That is certainly true. That is part of the economic revolution, and that's at the heart of what Tapscott and Williams are getting at in this work. So you've got some chapters from the book to read, okay, and then just again, I'm not trying to bias how you look at this, but just for kicks, right? So you're going to read chapters 1 through 4. I've given you a review of the book. It's from Inc. magazine, all right, which is a leader in the eco/technological space, and see what they have to say. Okay. All right, everybody. Short video. Have a fantastic week. The next video that I'll post, we'll talk about what you did in your discussions from last week. All right, and then we'll take it from there. Bye-bye.